Pape has just released Arc 9 Chapter 14, and this video will be a summary of the chapter. Highly recommend you check out my Arc 9 Chapter 13 summary. Anyways, let's begin. With fiery red hair, he stood there fully sculpted in the ideal of heroism. Reinhard stood there, menacingly. Aldebaran's hairs bristle under Reinhard's gaze. Reinhard was the sword saint. He was an unparalleled existence. He was the biggest obstacle in Aldebaran's plan. There were two peaks of difficulty. One was Subaru, the other was Reinhard. Since Beatrice and Subaru were sealed by Ol Shamak, that meant that the only hurdle left was Reinhard, who could challenge Al. Reinhard is the strongest. Cecilus may be faster. Halibel might have better technique. The Mad Prince may be more resilient to death. Ordinary people may lie better, and ordinary criminals may be more tenacious. The Sin Archbishops may possess irrational authorities. The witches may kill more people. The Great Spirits may possess more mana reserves. Whilst others may beat Reinhard in individual stats, Reinhard alone remains the strongest, and this was the hurdle Aldebaran had to defeat. Aldebaran then says it's stacked against him, and Dragon Owl says to use him since he is the Joker that can be used. Aldebaran asks Dragon Owl what he thinks of Reinhard, and Dragon Owl states that being a dragon means he can perceive the strengths of others better, and that Reinhard is terrifying. Reinhard introduces himself. Al squinted. It was a custom to introduce yourself before battle. Even the Sin Archbishops honor this practice. Aldebaran then mutters, "Stride Valakia, Sin Archbishop of Pride." Reinhard says, "What?" Then Aldebaran smirks and says, "That would be funny, wouldn't it?" A beam of light shot out and engulfed Reinhard. We see that Dragon Owl then picked up Owl and threw him to the side far away. Human Owl tumbled in the sand. He saw that Reinhard was unharmed and he dashed towards Dragon Owl and engaged in combat. Owl says it's unfair. Reinhard says that he blocked the attack with the dragon sword. We see that the sword would not falter even if the world itself died. Al says regardless, Reinhard isn't singed at all, and Reinhard says that he has the divine blessing of sunburn immunity. Reinhard's kick collided with Dragon Owl's claws. Human Owl watched. He couldn't move far or his matrix would collapse. Reinhard jumped back and stated that when he first came to the watchtower, he fought Volcanica, and Reinhard asks why Volcanica is now weaker. Dragon Owl calls Reinhard annoying. Dragon Owl says that Reinhard isn't wrong, but he hasn't fully mastered the body, but he says that he has something to show Reinhard. Dragon Owl flew forward, attacking Reinhard. Reinhard moved forwards. With the divine blessing of sand play, he was unaffected by the tricky sandy terrain. Reinhard dodged the attack and then kicked Dragon Owl into the air. He then jumped up following it. Reinhard was now above the airborne Dragon Owl, and Reinhard readied his arm to slash at Dragon Owl, stating that it's over. His arm alone felt like it could cleave through the divine dragon itself. Dragon Owl then says he has something to show Reinhard. Dragon Owl then says, Al Shario. A forbidding magic, Al Shario, now descends, and its power rivals that of a great spirit, and it's stronger than the divine dragon breath. He had learned it a long time ago from a witch which used to tutor him. Even though he could not use the ability due to his lack of talent, the witch drilled the knowledge into him. For what reason did she do this, he does not know. Al's fusion with the dragon shell allowed him to use Al Shario. Reinhard, with his divine blessings, knew that this was a very strong attack. Dragon Owl knew that Reinhard wouldn't simply succumb to the attack, and he twisted his body and attacked Reinhard. Reinhard blocked, but was propelled towards the falling star. During their encounter, it was known that Reinhard could step on clouds with his divine blessing. So Owl roared, knocking the clouds away. With no place to go, Reinhard collided with the star. However, Reinhard mutters, "Received." Reinhard, instead of being engulfed by the star and there being an explosion, simply started walking on the Shario. Both Aldebrands were shocked. And Owl then looks at Reinhard, and Reinhard states that he has the blessing of ball walking, meaning that he can freely control the fireball now. Reinhard tapped his foot on the Shario, and it directed itself towards Dragon Owl, who released his divine breath to counter the Shario. The breath and the star collided. Star fragments scattered across the sand dunes. Human Owl was blown away, and he suffered severe burns. Dragon Owl was half dead. One wing was severed, and the other broken. Human Owl was burned. It was said that Regulus once killed Reinhard. How? Reinhard won, indeed, once again, for the 8,466th attempt. Reinhard had won. Dragon Owl launched a breath attack at Reinhard, but Reinhard was standing in front of Human Owl, meaning that if Reinhard dodged, Human Owl would die. Reinhard drew the dragon sword and slashed through the attack, angry that Dragon Owl would try and harm his own ally. Human Owl, seeing this, swallowed his poison pill, stating he would take advantage of that kindness. Reinhard looked at Human Owl, and Human Owl convulsed and died. The scene changes. By the way, Reinhard is not using the dragon sword without the sheath. The dragon sword is always sheathed, by the way. "That's enough," Reinhard says. A beam of light strikes Dragon Volcanica. However, Human Owl doesn't fall off this time. After thousands of attempts, he's gotten the hang of it. The next battle begins, and Owl states he will win. The battle with Reinhard begun above the sand dunes. Owl was looking forward to the fight, but after 8,000 attempts, the mental toll on him was pronounced. Many attempts were over since Reinhard's initial attack would knock Owl off a Dragon Owl, causing him to fall to the sand and break his neck. At least it wasn't a game-ending checkpoint, he thought with a bitter smile. The one flaw with his authority was that he could set a checkpoint at an unavoidable end. It hasn't happened so far, but it could happen. Aldebaran has made progress. He breaks down Reinhard into his components. Reinhard's body is strong, even without divine blessings. Reinhard's respiration is hundreds of times more efficient than normal people. His body is also enhanced with mana. Reinhard has 251 divine blessings, ranging from the blessing of the Sword Saint to even weird ones like the blessing of shoelaces. His mind holds up to the ideals of the Sword Saint, and he challenges the threats to the world. Owl would have to dismantle these piece by piece. The Ugria Sand Dunes emits miasma, meaning it's the one place in the world where Reinhard is at his weakest. Yet, despite that, Reinhard is still very strong. Owl utilized a steam explosion to bypass Reinhard's fire and water resistance, but he also had a fire play and water play divine blessing. Techniques based on science and magic, such as using lightning, were countered with the divine blessing of thunderclouds. Every step forwards, he has a counter. Owl is now on attempt 64,799, yet he doesn't give up. 132,044 attempts. The battles lasted an average of less than 2 minutes. By the way, fun fact, if he actually had 2-minute loops, This would be around 4.5 months of battling Reinhard. Al pulled out his Book of the Dead. He tried to once break Reinhard's mental state by letting him read his Book of the Dead, but it didn't work since Reinhard possessed the blessing of nightmare immunity. Couldn't 100% reduce authority-based attacks, but it reduced it significantly. The reason for Al pulling out the Book of the Dead was to show it to Dragon Al. Al's Book of the Dead would update every time he died and reset, meaning by showing it to Dragon Al, he could update Dragon Al's memories and therefore know everything that has been attempted. Al states as long as he doesn't give up, he can win. Reinhard introduces himself and Al states that he is the following star. Reinhard charged forwards. Dragon Al released a blast of Dragon Breath. Dragon Breath was not magic, but a torrent of mana. Reinhard, however, did not dodge, and the Dragon Breath was cleaved in two by the Dragon Sword, which was still sheathed. Al shouts Plan D23, and Dragon Al uses Al Goa, causing fire to erupt and burn the surroundings. Reinhard, however, is untouched due to the blessing of fire avoidance. However, Al's goal was something else. The oxygen was gone. Reinhard noticed this and he touched his throat. This was the first time Reinhard had a strained expression on his face. Al took that as a victory and tells Reinhard to figure it out without a science lesson. Reinhard resisted all elemental attacks, but basic biology could not be countered. By combining science and magic, one could overcome these divine blessings. Plan L29. Another divine dragon breath scorched Reinhard down, whilst Dragon Al formed magic railguns. Reinhard stood in a vacuum, but Al knew that Reinhard could not surpass the speed of lightning. His previous attempts confirmed that. Reinhard's blessings activated, and the railgun fired and grazed him. However, due to the speed, it inflicted a major wound on Reinhard, causing blood to pour on the sand as his arm was blasted off. A second railgun fired into Reinhard. Not even he could tank this shot. Reinhard gripped his sheath of the dragon sword and blocked the second railgun shot. However, it propelled Reinhard backwards. Al then casted gravity magic called Karam, which is, by the way, the opposite of Marak, behind Reinhard. This wasn't simply gravity magic, it was akin to a black hole, and Reinhard flew into the singularity, crushing his life. Or so it seemed. Reinhard's dragon sword's tip was then thrust into the singularity, cleaving it in two. However, Reinhard's arm, which was holding the sword, was crushed. However, the dragon sword itself was unfazed. Both of Reinhard's arms were now out of action. One arm was cleaved by the railgun shot, and the second one was crushed. Reinhard kicked up his dragon sword into the air and then kicked it towards Dragon Al, piercing Dragon Al's throat. Reinhard states that the fight is over. Al pushed Reinhard far, but still lost. He had overcome his techniques and blessings, but still fell short. So Al played his final trump card, stating that he has someone working for him, and that Reinhard's father has been captured and taken hostage. And with that, the chapter ends. So by the way guys, if you made it this far, please like and subscribe if you haven't done it already. But yeah, this is really insane because it's confirmed that Reinhard can at max move at lightning speed. Again, I'm not too sure what's going on here because we know that Emilia, when she was fighting Sphinx uses beams of light. And Emilia can react and dodge that. Yet Reinhard is a lightning speed, so that's kind of weird. Not only the oxygen thing is a bit weird because we know Reinhard was kicked into space by Regulus. So if you can survive in space with no oxygen, how is this lack of oxygen affecting him? Again, I don't know. I think Tappy sort of writ himself in the corner here.